Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me today a candidate who is running for the District 65 School Board. Welcome to Evanston Live TV. Well, welcome back to Evanston Live TV, Donna Wang Su. Hi,
Thank you, Malika. Hi, how are you?
Donna. I'm good. Question is, how are you? You
I'm,
going through it, girl.
yeah, I am managing. I recently had a rough fall down the stairs and, I'm recovering from a concussion. So it'll be great when I'm back to 100%, but right now, managing on the path of healing. Thank you for asking.
Yes, yes. I know that has got to be so you're concerned about your health, not to mention COVID-19. You're a mom, you work, and now you're running a campaign. So, how are you sleeping at night? How are you even organizing all of that?
hmm I think for as long as I can remember, I've always referred to myself as a Jill of all trades. I've always juggled many things, whether it was, in high school, doing clubs and sports and school, or college, same thing. I was a founding class for my sorority on my campus, of the largest Asian American sorority in the US and Canada. And I worked two jobs and school. And I think I've just always done this. And this is how I think I thrive, off of being active and being busy and involved.
Mm, mm. Well, my first time actually meeting you was
Mm-hmm.
Zoom in the D65 forum. And I think that that is a forum that will probably go down in history in Evanston. People are still talking about it, and what I love is that it 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 started some conversations.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts about that forum? Like your first political forum? Well, I don't even want to call it political because it's about education, but it's politics at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
You know, I'm glad that we had to address some hard topics. And we saw in that forum there are vastly different people in their awareness journey. And that was deeply reflected. I think that we've talked so much about equity and how we need to do it. And I think that we need to start to center around, what are the goals? What does an equitable education look like? What does that mean? And how are we going to measure that? And so for me, I'm a planner. So when I'm listening to this, I'm already thinking, okay, what are our measures of success? How can we start to help in all these different pathways? Who are all of our audiences? It's not just the parents, but it's also residents that may not have children in D65. You're also looking at teachers, and then the administrators, and the list keeps going. But my mind kind of goes into that direction of, okay, we're starting to address some things. And you know what? It has to get hard before it can be better. Actually, my logo that my daughter helped design, I have arrows on there. And it's a reminder to me that you're going to be pulled back before you can hit your target.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
interesting. Um, what would you say you got the most out of that forum?
I really enjoyed hearing a bit more about some of the inner workings of the school board from the incumbents, because, you know, I and the other challengers, we hope to be there, but they've already lived that role and they know what to expect in some cases, although none of us signed up to serve in a pandemic. Um, but it was good to hear, I think, a bit from Joey, as he was chair of the finance committee. I think Nadona, she brought up some really great points that had me thinking about the bonds and the stocks, and how we've put so much into Robert Crown, and how it can be a jewel of Evanston, but how do we make sure that it is accessible to all of Evanston and District 65?
Mhm. Um, speaking of finance, because that's a huge discussion in regards to District 65.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it would be wonderful if there was enough on the books to cover every wonderful program to help
Hmm.
every child at whatever level they are. But
Yeah,
apparently, we don't have
right,
the money to cover all the
right.
wonderful programs that we want for the children. So, with the money that's on the sheet, the balance sheet right now,
Mm.
and you say you're elected to the board tomorrow,
Hmm.
where are you directing that money?
If I were to suddenly have a surplus of money that I could really focus money on without cutting anything, because that's the hard thing is you can't put more money into something without cutting something else. I would actually really double down on our offerings for pre-K to 3 level. We saw several years ago when the focus was on kindergarten readiness, you saw more prepared students in not only the elementary school, but also that's now reflecting in the middle school. And then later on, to prepare us all for ETHS, where we all end up, no matter what elementary or middle school you were at. So I would want to focus, I guess one of the main priorities would be that particular area and trying to make sure that we have opportunities, for that grade levels children to basically lessen that gap um, in our opportunity for them to achieve.
Okay, so starting at pre-K.
Because we do have JEH. JEH is part of District 65.
Okay. So you're noticing a gap even at the pre-K level?
Because think about it. You have some families that can afford childcare, and then you have others that, may not have that childcare or may not have those extra resources that are made available to them. I think when you start thinking of childcare and then how eventually that prepares them for that school level.
Mhm.
And how when I remember I was talking to a kindergarten teacher and the differences are between, learning your letters and learning your numbers, and some that didn't know how to do that, and some that came in, ready to read and do math solutions.
Mhm. Mhm. So with the funding, if they say,
Hmm.
okay, Donna Wang Su, we're going to put you in charge of working out this pre-K program to make sure all the kids are ready. So exactly what would that program look like? And how much would that be? How much of the budget would it take?
Hmm. I don't know if I have exact numbers for you there, but I think that, being able to work with the experts that we do have at the district level, determining curriculum and, the academics there, and then also addressing the different learning pathways that we have for our students and kind of trying to, bridge that gap. I don't know how much it would cost for the teachers. That's something that I can definitely, that's something that we can explore further. Or are there current resources that we have that we're not tapping into as well?
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
I think that, sorry,
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
um, just thinking, the district has increased our staffing spend by 1.5 million in new positions over the last several years, which are mostly administrative. I would love to tap into, that staffing spend and really utilize, their expertise on why they were selected for that position in better supporting this particular age group.
Mhm. So in that pre-K level, so you'll have some kids who uh, are already darn near reading. I mean, they know their
Mm-hmm.
letters, they can even do some math, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
some who are just, you know, getting familiar with the letters and some numbers.
Right.
And so they're all in one class.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work exactly?
I mean, that's what all of our kindergarten teachers are dealing with, bless them for taking it on. They have such a huge gap of children coming in, but I think that's why I said pre-K to third grade, because I think that what you start to learn at the pre-K level has to be reinforced at the kindergarten level, and that gap has to start closing there. And then same thing with first grade, second grade, third grade. I think that being able to be part of those formative years where it's not just about the education, but it's also about the cultural and social awareness and being able to interact with other children that school, public education, provides us with.
So I had a meeting with a person, and they were talking about how Witherspoon at ETHS
Mm-hmm.
wanted to just make sure all kids were in the same class together.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, I was informed, looked into it, that that really helped a lot of kids. What
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts on that?
I see value in having, all kids in one classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I think any concern that I have would be trying to make sure that students are all appropriately serviced. Where do you have some students that are bored or not understanding? I think my biggest concern is how are they actually interacting in the classroom? Are they completely tuned out? Are they showing up to class at all? Are they tardy? I think trying to address some of the very basics there.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is value to everyone being in the same space for, yeah, being in the same space.
Being in the same space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But doesn't mean that it's equitable, right? Just because you have some people that come into the same space with so much more opportunities that have been given to them, and those who have not. I think even looking at this return to school, I'm curious to know a little bit more of why they chose this particular hybrid program, and some more about, for elementary school age, they're doing half days. Do most of our families, can they send their kids to half days? Do they have the resources to have someone there, let's say in the mornings, and then dropping them off, at their school, and then picking them up? One of the reasons why we picked Evanston Skokie District 65 for our family was because it had a full day kindergarten, and I didn't have to worry about this half day thing. So there's definitely some questions about why was this chosen. I support that they're doing everything that they can do. I just wish that there was a little bit more information around this.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of heat the District 65 has taken over the handling of COVID-19. And
Hmm.
this actually helped me to understand both sides, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because I totally saw it as, look, they should not risk losing even one baby, one child.
Mm-hmm.
Not take that risk. And there was definitely a risk there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people saw it as 3% is still high. No one wants to lose their child. And
Right.
then with Black and Brown being disproportionately impacted by COVID
Mm-hmm.
and the health care that they tend to receive, uh,
Mm-hmm.
being sent home even when they're sick and they clearly have the virus and they're sent home to die, and they have children, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very complicated. So
Mm-hmm.
it's actually tragic.
It is.
Um, it says a lot about our country. So with District 65 really wanting to not lose one child,
Right.
what were your thoughts on the parents who were sending god awful, horrible messages to Dr. Horton and to the board? Open the school, we don't care. Open the school, reopen the school, we don't care. Reopen the school.
Sorry, I read, some of the messages that were sent to Dr. Horton and the school board members. I will share that I sit on the PTA council, and we also received some very not nice letters. I received one in particular that shared that their child's mental health was at an extreme, and if they committed suicide, that would be on us. They're going to hold us in the district responsible. And those are hard letters to read. But at the same time, I think that, Dr. Horton and the district had to do what's going to be best for all students and not just a small population. I think that they have been making sure that the research is done so we can reopen safely. I think there's so many more things to do than just say reopen the schools. You have to make sure that the teachers, are protected. Are they vaccinated? You also have to understand what do they have going on in their own homes. I was just reading about an article about, teachers who are parents, how are they juggling like their own kids and then their classroom kids, what's going to take a priority? And then what if, their own kids don't have the appropriate childcare or school reopening for them if they don't live in our district? So there's just so many different factors. I think that in this pandemic, we are all dealing with some sort of grief. And I think that grief does many things to people, whether it's angry or sorrow or trying to cope. And I think that we've lost a lot of things. We've lost our normalcy, our freedoms, and we can't leave outside without wearing a mask. And we shouldn't leave outside without wearing a mask, not only to protect other people, but also ourselves. So, and I'm not too familiar exactly with more of the information about the reopened schools. I think I'd want to know a little bit more. I'm curious to learn what were their thought process, what was driving these demands? Were they medical, financial? I don't know, because everyone's going crazy at home. I'm going crazy at home with my kids, but I'm not going to make a decision based on how I'm doing that in that moment and day.
I mean, my heart and prayers went out to Dr. Horton and the board because it was brutal. And all they were thinking about was life and death of children.
Right.
That bottom line, life and death of children.
Right.
I mean, I think if I was in Dr. Horton's position, for the board, I would definitely have kept the school closed. Like, there's no way. I don't want not one child to die until we get this under control. And I think across the country, no one really had a true understanding of this virus.
Right.
So, I mean, it was changing every day. You can do this, but you can't do that. You can wear
right.
it, but you can take it off sometimes. You can do,
right.
New information coming in every day. So they didn't want to risk losing not one child. And that was just the toughest position to be in. If you were Dr. Horton, how would you have handled it? No other board have gone through anything like this.
No,
I felt like the criticism was just way too much. Like, hello, back them up, support them right now.
Right.
Because this is new for everybody.
I will never walk in Dr. Horton's shoes, and I do respect what he has done and accomplished thus far. We have so many reasons why we chose him to represent and to guide District 65 into this next chapter. He definitely did not sign up to guide us during a pandemic. And actually, when the district shared the horrifying letters and comments that they were getting, my PTA Council Exec Board, we sent out a similar messaging supporting them and condoning basically making those kinds of personal attacks. And we sent it out over our listserv, which includes PTA leadership over all of our schools there. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run for school board, because I felt that school board, it's a team effort. And we chose Dr. Horton. He's still new. And when you're new, you're still learning, you're adapting. it's okay to make mistakes. I mean, that's what we tell our kids, right? It's okay to make mistakes. You learn from them, you pick yourself up, and you keep going. And I view the school board and the district and the teachers as we are his support system, needing to be in sync with that. But to answer your question, I don't know what I would do if I was Dr. Horton. And I think that's why he's doing as much as he can to listen and learn, ranging from with the finance, the budget, the thought process, being able to take in feedback from the community. Over the summer, he put together the summer task force. I was part of that, and trying to learn as much as he could. But like you said, every day is different. Every week we're like, what's this? In the beginning of this whole pandemic, COVID was called the Chinese virus. And there was so much hate and microaggressions that I saw become physical violence towards, the APITA community. And so I won't go down that rabbit hole though.
Mm, mm. Yeah, it's been a tough year. It's been a tough year, and um, I hate reading all the messages that I've read on social media,
Mhm.
when I felt like, gosh, this was a time to really be supportive of
Right.
the superintendent and the board and the staff, and understand that they're in some new circumstances.
Mhm.
I see we have some guests on, so
Oh,
if anyone has any questions, please feel free to use the raise your hand signal. If you can't find it or have tech difficulties using it, put your question in the chat and I will call on you to ask our candidate, Donna Wang Su, a question. Um, so, so Donna, what are some other things that you really want to go in and do in terms of policy? Um, I believe finance is more your area, finance management of the
it's a
board.
bit of it. Like I said, I'm a Jill of all trades. So, I teach fourth grade religious education. Actually, I see my co-teacher there. Somebody wave hi to her. Be careful driving though, and watching that video. And I've taught college age kids, and I've coached soccer and basketball. So I also look at this from a coach teacher perspective, but also a parent perspective. Um, I think in my journey of equity training, I do want to make sure that we are getting kids to their potential and looking at it through a lens of equity. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that our finances are set up, so we can make that kind of impact there. So I would say, if I really look at what am I bringing as expertise, I do bring the financial piece, yes, but I think I also bring quite a bit of the community piece in terms of the networking. I've always volunteered in our community, ever since we moved here in 2006, even before I had kids.
Mhm.
Um, and then on top of that, I bring change management. Recently, my center underwent leadership change. And my previous position before that, I've helped see the operations maintain its quality to the students and the teachers, even during a leadership change.
Um, hmm, interesting. A Jill of all trades. A
I
Jill of
am.
all trades. And the word equity, I was like, I almost want us to find a new word. I really do, because I feel it's
Mm-hmm.
come to such the buzzword, like
I know.
equity, equity, equity. But then you listen to the D65 forum, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
do people really understand what that looks like or what it means? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, to walk in Dr. Horton's shoes, you can't even imagine what what it was like for him since the start of COVID, and trying to
Mm-hmm.
save lives, trying to protect lives,
Mm-hmm.
and receiving the hate mail. It's uh, equity in Evanston it's interesting. Interesting. Because I think it was Terry Shepard that said equity means different things to different people. So what does
I
that mean
agree.
to you? What does equity mean to you? what does it mean to Donna Wang Su at home? And then what does equity mean to Donna Wang Su at the board?
I think equity to me at home as a parent, um, mother to my children, it is making sure that they are safe, and safety is the hugest thing, I think. And I don't want to even say engaged because that's not even the right word either. I guess supported through this whole process. You know, if I can give them the right tools to continue their learning process, or just keep interacting. My kids miss their friends so much, but at the same time, we have certain health issues, and I think certain families would also understand like the multi-generational households. So there's this awareness and fear and anxiety around, around not being careful enough with COVID. But I think with equity, as a school board member, I want to think about all of our children. And that's why I mentioned the whole K-3 age range, because I think that if we can start young, start supporting them there, putting more effort there, it means that they are basically lessening that gap in their opportunity to achieve, being the best that they can be, whether it's, in school, in various subjects, or I'm just trying to think of how can we, we talk about equity, but my biggest thing is, what are the actual goals going to be? What kind of policy can the school board member, what kind of policies can, we create together?
Okay. I'm gonna go back to, we got a couple questions, so I'm gonna
Sure.
them in one moment. So going back to, if you're elected on the board tomorrow and now you've got the budget in your hand and the programming, um, I mean, even with children starting together in pre-K,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that's happening along the way
Mm-hmm.
where not all children are celebrated in the classroom. And more parents are actually seeing that with e-learning because now they're
Mm-hmm.
listening to the teachers from the other room, or they're in
Mm-hmm.
the same room and the teacher doesn't see them. Their children not being called on,
Mm-hmm.
being completely ignored. The child is raising their hand to get some help.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting help in the class. So, and then other
Right.
children are celebrated for answering the question right. They're constantly
Mm-hmm.
calling on the same kids. So more and more of that is starting to come out. And I think
Oh, right.
that contributes to the achievement gap. Because if a child isn't celebrated like the child next to him is celebrated,
Right.
um, that does something to your self-esteem. And yeah, you don't want to go to school anymore.
Right. It's gotta be hard. I think that, I look at some of the classrooms where kids are turning off their classrooms. They're staying muted until told to unmute. And in the classroom setting, you're losing so much of that organic interaction. And you are right. There are children that have been
Favored.
ignored and not celebrated, that are favored.
So how do you deal with that in terms of the budget and the programs and
Hmm.
closing that gap? And it's all
Sure. Right. And I would say it's some of the first things as we are trying to create like a safe return to school. I think continuing with the centers that can support kids. I'm just thinking there's times where sometimes my daughter is e-learning next to me and she is yelling at a classmate about how some math problem, 42 divided by 5, and she says like the completely wrong answer, but she's yelling at him because she is so right. Um, so that to me is a hard one to listen to, but at the same time, like I said, not everyone has the luxury of having a dedicated work or school space. So I think definitely continuing with that. Um, I think that being able to provide equal opportunities during the school day is very important, because then you're not adding on that extra before or after school expense or transportation concern that parents may have.
Okay, let me get our guests in. Hold on. I believe that's Mia Logan. You want to unmute and ask your question?
Oh, hi.
Hi, Mia.
Hi, Donna. Hi, Malika. So I was wondering what you see as areas of resources that are lacking in from pre-K to grade 3 level, and not just resources internal, but also externally.
Sure.
There are support agencies that districts work with, or individual schools work with. So I was wondering if we were lacking in that area, or if it's needed. What is your perspective?
Sure. Well, thank you, Mia, for the question. It's good to hear your voice.
Same here.
I think, starting at that young grade level, a lot of it has to do around literacy. I know that some of our schools have books and breakfast, which is a great opportunity for students to not only get fed, but also really enhancing and working on their literacy skills, with reading and that comfort level, building that confidence in our children. And, not every child is going to have a library of books ready for them at home, or, a tablet, where they have a parent that can be tech savvy enough or comfortable with the language to help them put ebooks on there. And I think about our TWE community as well, and our ESL, English as Second Language learners, where what kind of resources are being made available to them with the literacy piece too. And then as for areas that I think that we could build up more, I believe that the district is going in the right direction. They've done more around the Equity Week, the LGBTQIA plus, building that into our history, into our messaging, having the Latinx, and then the Black Lives Matter. I don't want it just to be a 1 week thing or a 1 month thing. It should be an everyday thing. I love that with Carrie Shepard, what she's created with the ACC program. I would love to see that at every school. I think one of my biggest things that I noticed was when we moved from Bessie Rhodes to Walker Elementary was suddenly the amount of resources that were made available to us that were either free or affordable. And a lot of that was either parent run, or so many teachers were offering programs that almost enhanced my children's experience in that instance. And I know that's not the case across the district. And we have so many partners here in District 65, whether it's small businesses or artists or other teachers, that we could be tapping into. And I think that's something that I've been working on through PEP, was really the enrichment piece, after school programming this past year during this pandemic.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Mia. Thank you. The next question is from Marissa and Thomas Wallstrom.
Hi, thank you so much. I'll just read what I typed in the chat.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
How would you help the district lessen the gap in the opportunity to achieve for all students? What would be your #1 suggestion that you would go straight to first?
I think one interesting thing being home and listening a lot is realizing some of the resources that we're lacking in is STEM related, and not just because there's so many other offerings outside of the school, but what's being built in during the school, because that's the equitable thing. We shouldn't be adding on enrichment before school or after school, because not everyone is there for that. We should have it as part of the school day. I would like to explore a bit more. As I mentioned before, we increase staffing spend. That's mostly on the administrative side. I'd love to see what their strategic plans are. What are their goals going to be? And, how is it all going to work together into the same picture? This isn't a challenging time for our students, both academically and social, even mental and physical well-being too.
Thank you for that, Marissa Thomas. Okay, and our next question is from Holly.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Holly.
Hi. What are
Hi.
your views on a Fifth Ward STEM school?
Sure. I support a Fifth Ward school. I definitely support the STEM school, the initiatives there. I think there's so much that can be done. I believe that the Fifth Ward has been long overdue for its own school. Learning about the origins of foster school was truly eye-opening, and it made me curious to learn what steps have been taken to basically ensure a Fifth Ward school, or why they need one even more. I think that when you really even look at the opportunities and achievement gaps, you're also seeing that students are being bused all over the district. And, that takes time away from them, both physically and mentally. So I believe that there's so much benefits in being a Fifth Ward school. But, I know that's going to take money, and I know that's going to take some hard decision making, whether it is closing a school or whether it means redistricting, because it shouldn't have our children so vastly spread apart. I remember when we were house shopping, I called one friend and I said, look, across the street, you're going to be right there. Our kids are going to go to the same school. She's like, oh no, you're a different school. I'm this school. And I was like, all right. And then I went back and looked at the ward map, and you can't build a community if you don't have something central around it. And I think that that's what the Fifth Ward really needs. And I really support the idea of STEM. I think that especially for girls and students of color, having that extra resources and opportunities that are going to be taught within the daily curriculum that they are there would mean so much. I think that there are opportunities, I think, as I mentioned before, being able to find grants for STEM, being able to work with local providers, being able to, I've talked about, University of Chicago has a lab school, that they fund. What are the opportunities and options that we can look at nearby as well? So my short answer to that is yes, I do support a Fifth Ward STEM school. And I would want to see that happen basically within my first term. So maybe 3 years, and really get traction on the strategic plans of getting that started in that timeline and budget.
Thank you for the question, Holly. When reparations came about, everyone was really excited over Evanston reparations.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I had submitted was a school in the Fifth Ward,
Mm-hmm.
Henry Wilkins STEM School for Evanston.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow it turned into a housing program. So, and I felt like that first 400,000
Mm-hmm.
definitely could have went to the start of a school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the gift that keeps on giving,
Right.
as opposed to $25,000 to a handful of families in Evanston. That's the gift that will continue to give and give and give to the community for generations and generations to come.
Mm-hmm.
I testified at the Capitol back in March 2020 before COVID hit us hard,
Shut down. Yeah.
that's owed to us through education,
Mm-hmm.
through our children. That is reparations, since there's such a fight to give us monetary, which we deserve as well, but that money should just come from reparations
Mm-hmm.
and given because it's owed to us, and give it to our children so that it goes on for years to come. What are your thoughts on that? Because somewhere that idea just got lost and turned into a housing program for like 10 Black families in the entire city of Evanston, as
Right.
opposed to a school, a STEM school that just would have been absolutely amazing. And Henry wouldn't be
Right.
running around here trying to raise money. It would
Right.
be money that's right there. $10 million,
Right.
million a year can make a school.
Right. Now, I agree. A school can have such an impact, not just as a neighborhood school. I know that he mentioned if this was like a magnet school, it could be a destination school, like King Lab was originally. And it could really change the dynamics around the fifth ward. Now, my biggest fear is if that happens, um, is housing going to change? Are we going to get priced out? Are we going to lose our current families? And that shouldn't happen. So I do see some value in that housing that would almost have to be tied in with the education piece. And I do think that, you know, reparations have been long overdue. And being able to create those opportunities for housing, I think also builds that, not only that community building and that pride you have, but also property taxes, and ensures more of a financial benefit too from the district. So I think it goes both ways.
Well, we can talk about reparations forever, but I mean, that money goes straight to the bank. And the families have to get qualified to even receive it, and they never touch the money. So the banks will be making the money. So yeah. So
Has there been other looks on like who could also be a fiscal manager for these funds?
I don't know. I kind of, you know, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion. No final decisions have been made, but I just think it would have been great, a great start for that to go into a school in the fifth ward, because that was taken away from us. And it'd been great as that being the start to putting it back. So yeah.
I think we can do it. I really think the city can do it. I saw what they did to Robert Crown and really transformed it into this, I don't know, into this amazing community center. But I would have loved to see some of that funding come back into the fifth ward and create an amazing community center that is so long overdue. I mean, think about it, you know, being able to have classroom settings there, a space to be able to have kids be active and move, library. You know, I grew up, mom was too cheap to turn on the AC. So if we wanted to be cooler in the summer, we rode our bikes over to the library and just read. So I think there's so much value that could be in having a school in the fifth ward. So I do agree with you there.
What is the main message that you want to get out to people about Donna Wang Su being on District 65?
Sure. So my name is Donna Wang Su, and as I mentioned, I like to refer to myself as a Jill of all trades. I believe that I've been a continuous volunteer in our community, and I work best as part of a team, really highlighting each other's strengths and focusing on how we can do better, be better. I think that's part of what being a parent has done to me. It's really pushed me to my limits because they're watching and they're learning. And I think that I'm for every kid in our district, and I want them to be able to be successful in their own different ways, and ultimately, yeah, be successful and be happy in their particular own metrics, and definitely lessening that gap in achievement.
How do you deal those metrics?
I think
Because, like,
there's
every child learns
right.
differently, and you know, you have your creative kids who learn in a different way. Um, you have kids who really excel at math. I mean, everybody learns. Some people are visual, some people are audio.
All right.
So many different ways. So how do you determine those metrics with programming and class setting, and you know, where kids aren't left out and these kids are getting everything?
I think we need to take a hard look at, you know, who is able to take advantage of certain opportunities. Why were these put into place? It shouldn't be based on just one thing, one test. You know, some people, myself, I'm not that great of a test taker. So I would hate that my entire future is based on this one test that, especially during a pandemic, could have been taken with my dog barking and distracted and me losing internet through that. I think that there are different ways that we can view metrics and measurements. I think that each kid deserves an opportunity to be looked at in different ways. I think that you're right. You know, some kids are going to be maybe more verbal, or maybe they're better when they're writing things down. And I think that there needs to be different pathways of understanding that and supporting that, whether it's having more social workers, better understanding, I think, the administrators' goals. We have so many administrators, and I want to almost understand, what are your goals? Why are you here? What do you want to do and plan to do? And then how can we get there, but still keep an eye on equity and making sure that it's fiscally responsible too? Are there ways that we can tap into our district and maybe support small businesses in either building curriculum or providing educational resources?
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please let everyone know where they can reach you, because I'm sure people they're going to want
Sure.
to elaborate.
Sure thing. So I say that my name is Donna Wang Su, and it's partially because when I used to say my name is Donna Su, people say, Donna Su, what's your last name? And I was like, no, it's Su. I married it. I'll deal with it. So I added my maiden name as my middle name. But my website is actually Donna Su, Donna, S like Sam, U like umbrella.com. I've been building websites since 1997. So I've owned my domain name for a long time. And then if you want to email me, it's actually just my name, donnasue@gmail.com. So please reach out. I would love an opportunity to hear from the community and learn from you. And I'm curious to see what more we can do together as a team.
Okay, I'm typing it all in the chat for everyone.
Oh,
And
donnasue.com with a U at the end.
oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Okay, donnasue.com.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I still left the U out. Come on, Malika. I need to go back to school. Okay,
You got it.
donnasue.com.
All right.
All right. Okay. And I'll be sure to put your contact in the description when I post it out to the public. But
Great.
everyone joining us today, thank you so much. We've gone a little over, but I'm okay with that because we're talking about our children. And that is so important. It's life, literally life or death right now in the times that we're in. We got to make sure they're protected and educated and receiving all the resources and tools that they need to get through this thing we call life. Lord, this world. But
Yes.
thank you all so much for joining us, and be sure to contact Donna Wang Su if you have more questions, if you want her to elaborate on some of her responses, reach out to her, and please stay engaged. And thank you so much, Donna, for your time today, and our prayers with you. I hope you do well get better.
Yeah. Recovery. It'll take a while, but you know what the good news is? I will get there. You're getting there.
You're getting there.
Yes.
You're running a campaign on a concussion. So yeah, you're doing it.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
be
much.
Be safe and be well.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
All right. This is Malika, Evanston Live TV, and that was Donna Wang Su. She's running for District 65 School Board. You all be sure to contact her if you have more questions. Again, I will put her information in the description of this post. And you all please stay engaged. The Evanston election is heating up and they have barely got out the gate. So stay engaged and know what's going on at all times.